Batwoman, aka Kate Kane, has a twin sister named Beth. Their father is a colonel named Jacob or Jake Kane, and his wife is a captain named Gabrielle or Gabby. Because of their demanding jobs, they had to travel a lot and weren't home often, especially Jake. Eventually, the Kane family moved to Brussels in Belgium, where Jake and Gabrielle worked with NATO. When Kate and Beth were 12 years old, Gabrielle wanted to take them out for their birthday for chocolate and waffles. While doing so, they were attacked and kidnapped. Jacob managed to find them, but it was too late. Beth and Gabrielle had been killed. Kate was traumatized by this event as she witnessed it all go down. Kate dealt with this trauma by being cool-headed like her father. Kate kept going and she got accepted into the United States Military Academy in West Point, where she excelled and found a girlfriend, Sophie Moore. During her senior year, someone anonymously accused Kate of homosexual conduct. Kate responded by coming out as a lesbian to protect her other closeted cadets. She then also decided to resign from the academy and was expelled under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell law, which basically stated that queer people could serve in the military on the condition that they remained closeted. The military was all she had ever known. Losing this part of her identity made her spiral into a life of alcohol abuse and promiscuity. In an attempt to find herself, she decided to travel the world. When she returned to Gotham, she continued her reckless lifestyle. One night, she was speeding and got pulled over by Renee Montoya, who was still a cop at the time. Kate managed to charm her and they became a couple. Eventually, they broke up after Renee expressed concern about Kate's lack of direction in life. After drowning away her sorrows, Kate was attacked by a mugger. She could easily fight the man off, but Batman showed up. Seeing him up close made her feel alive and realize a life of vigilantism could be her purpose in life. Inspired by the Dark Knight, she sobers up and stole military equipment to operate as a vigilante. It took about a year until her father found out. At first, he was angry, but he quickly realized she was doing good, so he decided to train her excessively. This training lasted about 3 years until Kate had proven she was ready to become Batwoman. A secret organization called the Religion of Crime, aka Dark Fate, got a new leader in Gotham. Batman worked together with Batwoman to investigate this case. The new leader was named Alice. Alice regularly quoted Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, but she was not associated with the Mad Hatter. Kate and her new girlfriend Margaret Sawyer attended a charity ball for the GCPD. This is where she got the news that Alice planned to destroy Gotham by stealing military-grade firepower. Jacob had just left for an emergency on base. This is when Kate realized that the religion of crime was behind it. Batwoman managed to board the plane from which Alice planned to unleash a toxic gas onto the city. While fighting, Kate nearly knocked Alice out of the plane, but caught her by the hand. Alice then looked up at Kate and said, "You have our father's eyes," followed by stabbing a dagger into Kate's arm. In pain, Kate let go and watched Alice fall as she realized her sister did not die all those years ago and her father had lied to her. This deteriorated the relationship between Kate and her father Jacob. In the aftermath of this, Kate isolated herself to try and come to terms with what just happened, while the police struggled finding Alice's body. During this time, Batman had seemingly died in Final Crisis. During Batman and Robin Blackest Night, Batwoman is kidnapped by cultists and taken to London to be sacrificed in the last remaining Lazarus Pit. She is saved by Nightwing, Knight, and Squire. This gives Nightwing the idea of placing Bruce Wayne's body in the Lazarus Pit. Kate disagreed, but Grayson did it anyway. True to Kate's warnings, Bruce emerges from the pit and attacks them. Long story short, this was a clone made by Darkseid and not the real Bruce Wayne. I digress. A fight broke out and the cultists who kidnapped Kate detonated explosives surrounding the pit, which caused a massive cave-in. Nightwing found Kate buried alive and paralyzed from the waist down. Using morphine from Nightwing's utility belt, Kate deliberately commits suicide by overdose in order to be resurrected and healed by the Lazarus Pit. This was successful, and since she did actually die, the cultists considered their goal complete as well. Eventually, Batman offered Batwoman a position in Batman Incorporated, which she declined. She did, however, accept a position at the DEO, which is the Department of Extra-Normal Operations. She tested the limits of her DEO servitude by sabotaging some of her missions so that the DEO wouldn't get all the complete intel. For example, both Batman and the DEO wanted a piece of Mr. Freeze's tech, so Batwoman destroyed it instead. So far, Batwoman had worked alone. She would occasionally team up with Batman or Batgirl, but for the most part she was a bit of a lone wolf. That was until Gotham Knights. Batman approached Kate after a mysterious group called the Colony began hunting down Gotham's heroes. The Colony was led by Kate's father. To earn her trust, Batman revealed his secret identity. He is Bruce Wayne, Kate's cousin. The two work together to lead a boot camp for young heroes such as Red Robin, Orphan, Spoiler, and Clayface. Writer Greg Rucka explained that Kate was shaped by her parents. They demonstrated the best of what military culture can offer, such as personal responsibility, integrity, service, and diminution of personal gratification. Specifically, Kate took after her father. She emulated his calmness in the wake of their family tragedy to counteract her grief and inherent hot-headedness. In James Tynion's Force story The Wrong Side of the Looking Glass, this emulation of her father is expanded upon. He stated that Kate may have experienced gender variance as a child. Gender variance or gender non-conformity is a behavior of gender expression. The individual's behavior, in this case Kate Kane, does not match stereotypical gender norms. Kate is a lesbian, cisgendered woman, but from a young age she was more interested in masculine subjects and pastimes, like her father was. This was confusing for her when she compared herself to her more feminine sister. Greg Rucka added that, to Batwoman, vigilantism was no different than military service. Using the bat symbol is like fighting under a flag. They're following an ideal. We all deal with difficulties in our own way. You may indulge on a tube of ice cream to cope with stress, while your friend may run 10 miles to do the same. To cope with life's trials and tribulations, we use coping mechanisms. In Kate's case, she seemed to be able to turn her emotions off completely. By nature, Kate is impulsive and has a temperament, but the moment she faces hardship, it's like she can flip the off switch of her feelings and continue as normal. Is that a healthy coping mechanism? Let's find out. Coping mechanisms can either be healthy or unhealthy. Healthy coping mechanisms are sustainable and provide lasting benefits. They help individuals navigate challenges in a constructive manner. Adaptive strategies contribute to the general well-being by reducing stress, improving emotion regulation, and creating a sense of empowerment. Examples of healthy coping mechanisms are mindfulness, exercise, social support, journaling, and creative outlets. Unhealthy coping mechanisms are usually harmful strategies people use to deal with stress or difficult emotions. They often provide temporary relief or distraction from the underlying issues. They tend to fail to address the root causes and can lead to more negative consequences in the long run, such as contributing to worsening the situation. Unhealthy coping mechanisms are ineffective in promoting emotional well-being. Common harmful coping mechanisms are substance abuse, alcohol abuse, emotional eating, isolation, and reckless behavior like excessive spending, reckless driving, or punching a wall. These coping mechanisms do not address the underlying issues, only offer a temporary relief, and avoid what's really going on. When you avoid a problem, it's gonna hit you in the face twice as hard. The difference between adaptive and maladaptive coping mechanisms lies in if it gives attention to the underlying issue, if it benefits your well-being, and if it has positive long-term effects. Smoking, for example, suppresses the stressful emotions and has negative effects on your body. In contrast, going for a walk gives you the opportunity to reflect while moving your body, preferably outside in nature. Being cold-headed in stressful situations is good if it gives you the ability to think rationally. However, as a coping mechanism, it's just avoidance. It isolates them from others while ignoring the underlying difficulties they're struggling with. This is called experiential avoidance. Experiential avoidance is the unwillingness to experience certain memories, thoughts, or emotions because they don't want to face the pain that comes with them. In addition, they avoid situations or contexts related to the undesirable personal experiences. The downside is that avoiding these things in life comes at a cost. For example, people who struggle with anxiety can experience more of it simply by avoiding it. Experiential avoidance also increases the risk of suffering from PTSD in trauma victims, like Kane. Now, avoiding some feelings some of the time is not a big deal. Avoidance can be a harmless short-term strategy. In fact, it could save your life. If you're walking around in Australia, I'm sure you're going to avoid running into the giant spiders or snakes to avoid them. However, having it as your primary coping mechanism or doing it excessively can be harmful. Excessive avoidance behavior can contribute to anxiety and other stress-related mental disorders. It is often linked with depression, anxiety, conduct disorder, and, as mentioned previously, PTSD. Shit happens. Life comes with pain and distress. Avoiding it is only a temporary solution. In addition, avoidance reinforces the notion that discomfort may be bad or dangerous. It's not. Sometimes it can tell us what we need to do or change in order to be happy. Besides, avoiding requires energy. When you're putting an effort to avoid a certain feeling, it comes at the expense of experiencing what's going on in the present, and it may get in the way of more important matters such as values. Although it looks like Kate tends to avoid difficult feelings or emotions, one thing she doesn't avoid is being her true self. Gender non-conformity is a term that's given to people who don't conform to the stereotypical gender norms. Kane is a woman, though she expresses herself as a bit of a tomboy. As a child, she may have been more interested in sports or cars rather than dolls or makeup. Of course, this is all stereotypical and depending on cultural background. In addition, no one actually confirms these expectations all the time. This makes that anyone can be gender non-conforming since it's a continuum. Some people follow gender norms most of the time, some people don't, and others are somewhere in between. People may show gender variance for different reasons. Some people do it on purpose to fight gender norms, others do it simply as a way of self-expression. The latter can make us believe it's a good thing, but that's not always the case. According to a 2024 meta-analysis, gender non-conformity is linked with anxiety, depressive symptoms, an increased risk in self-harm and suicide attempts, and self-esteem issues. This was especially the case in adolescents. This is because they can be the target of bullying, but they can also experience an inner conflict since they're still figuring out who they are. The link between gender nonconformity and depression was also stronger in behavior-based nonconformity compared to trait-based nonconformity. Behavior-based nonconformity refers to the observable behavior, for example, Kane preferring the military over a more feminine role. Trait-based gender nonconformity refers to personality traits or internal characteristics that usually don't align with gender stereotypes, such as a man being emotionally sensitive or nurturing, or a woman being assertive. Traits can be masked, which makes behavior-based variants more harmful. Behaviors are visible and they can attract attention. Unfortunately, this also means more bullying, policing, and judgment from peers, family, and society. this judgment can have an impact on mental health. Kate grew up feeling less feminine. She definitely struggled with this inner conflict of not fitting in or feeling the same as other girls her age did. She did get support from her father, but she still felt this rage of being different. Not only is Kate gender non-conforming, she's also a lesbian, which makes her part of the LGBTQIA+ community, which comes with its costs as well. As mentioned earlier, she had to leave the military because someone outed her. Even today, LGBT folks still experience discrimination. The Don't Ask, Don't Tell law that made Kate leave the military was only disbanded in 2011. It took until April 3rd, 2025 for conversion therapy to be banned in New South Wales and Australia. In Kentucky, for example, being non-binary is still not legally recognized, there are no protections against housing discrimination, conversion therapy is legal again since March 2025, and education on gender identity and sexual orientation has been banned since March 29, 2023. And those are just a few examples. Not only do they face discrimination, in the United States, they are 5 times more likely to be victims of a violent crime. In fact, between 2022 and 2023, the amount of crimes against LGBT people increased by 49% in the US, and this is only reported crimes. Members of the LGBT community are less likely to report a crime due to a lack of trust in and alleged harassment by law enforcement. That last part made it seem like it's better to be someone you're not. While society's judgment may have negative effects, hiding who you really are can be harmful too. I really hope everyone here can be their true authentic self and is happy with the way they are. This video concludes my psychoanalysis videos on the bad family members. If you've missed a few, you can always go back to this playlist or listen to it on YouTube Music as a podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!